Conveyor restart accident, industrial facility. This happened at a small industrial facility in the early 2010s. An experienced technician was servicing an automatic conveyor that had stopped due to a jammed part. It was a common issue, nothing unusual. According to safety rules, the machine should have been fully powered down and locked out. But the technician decided it would take too long. He turned off the main control panel, but did not fully cut power to the system. The plan was simple: remove the stuck part quickly and restart the line. He leaned into the machine and reached between the rollers. At that moment, another worker, unaware of the maintenance, restored power from a remote control panel. The conveyor started instantly. There was no time to react. The machine functioned exactly as designed. Coworkers heard the noise and screams, but they could not stop the process in time. The investigation concluded that the accident would not have happened if the power had been fully shut down and locked. The mistake was not complex or unusual. It was a decision to save a minute, a decision that cost a life. Unsecured fall, construction site. The accident occurred at a construction site during a routine workday. A worker climbed to a height of about 4 meters to check a beam connection. According to safety rules, he was required to wear a harness and secure a safety line. But the area was only a few steps from the ladder, and the task seemed quick and simple. He decided the harness wasn't necessary. Just for a second, the worker stepped onto the metal structure, shifted his weight, and reached for the beam. At that moment, his boot slipped on the damp surface. He lost balance and tried to grab onto the beam, but it was too late. The fall happened instantly. The height did not seem extreme, but the impact was fatal. Coworkers called emergency services immediately, but the injuries were too severe. The investigation concluded that a safety harness would have completely prevented the accident. The mistake was not technical or complex. It was a common human decision, skipping protection when the danger felt minimal. Wrong lever activation, industrial plant. The incident occurred at an industrial site using a manually operated lifting platform. The operator had worked with the equipment for years and knew the system well. At the end of the shift, the platform needed to be lowered for inspection. It was a routine procedure performed many times each week. Inside the control cabin were 2 nearly identical levers positioned side by side. One controlled slow descent, the other triggered an emergency pressure release. Normally, the operator checked hand placement before activating controls. But this time, he was in a hurry and acted on muscle memory. He pulled the wrong lever. The platform dropped suddenly at a speed far beyond normal limits. A worker standing below had no time to react or move away. The entire incident lasted only seconds. The investigation revealed worn-out labels and lack of additional safeguards. But the primary cause was not mechanical failure. It was habit and haste. One incorrect movement, made automatically, led to fatal consequences. Pressure sensor failure. Heavy equipment facility. The accident occurred at a facility where heavy equipment was inspected daily. One pressure sensor began showing unstable readings. Nothing seemed critical. The system continued operating, and no alarms were triggered. The engineer noticed the issue but decided to postpone a detailed check until the end of the shift to avoid stopping production. For several hours, the equipment operated under increasing stress. Pressure slowly built up, but appeared to remain within acceptable limits. When the engineer returned to recheck the system, he was standing near the unit. At that moment, a sudden pressure spike occurred. The emergency release system failed to activate in time. A rupture followed, releasing a powerful burst of energy directly into the work area. The engineer suffered fatal injuries. There was no time to react. The investigation concluded that an immediate inspection of the sensor would have revealed a critical fault. The mistake was not ignorance or negligence. It was a common decision, postponing a problem for later, a decision that proved fatal. Working alone incident, technical maintenance area. The incident occurred during routine maintenance in a technical area rarely accessed by others. A worker was assigned a brief inspection at the end of his shift. According to safety rules, such tasks required at least two people, so that one could call for help if something went wrong. But the job seemed simple, and he chose to work alone. During the inspection, he entered a confined space near moving machinery. At some point, he lost balance and suffered a serious injury. He was alive, but unable to free himself or reach any communication device. The area was isolated, and the noise of equipment drowned out any calls for help. Coworkers found him only the next day after he failed to respond. Medical examiners confirmed he died due to injuries and delayed assistance. The investigation concluded that having a second person present could have prevented the tragedy. The mistake was simple: believing help wouldn't be needed. Weather-related fall outdoor work site. The work was being carried out at an open site where both equipment and personnel were directly affected by weather conditions. The forecast for the day was unfavorable, with strong winds and reduced visibility expected. Management recommended postponing certain operations, but deadlines were tight, and the team decided to proceed, assuming the weather wouldn't be that bad. During the first half of the day, conditions remained manageable. By late afternoon, however, the wind intensified, rain began, and surfaces became slippery. A worker was operating at height, performing a routine task he had done many times before. A sudden gust of wind caused him to lose balance. He tried to stabilize himself, but wet gloves and limited space left no chance. The fall happened instantly. Coworkers stopped the work and called for emergency services, but the injuries were fatal. The investigation concluded that the procedure itself was performed correctly. The mistake was the decision to continue working despite deteriorating weather conditions. It was not an accident of nature, but a conscious choice to ignore risk. Gas sensor malfunction. Automated industrial facility. The work took place at a facility with an automated monitoring system where critical conditions were tracked by electronic sensors. Before starting the task, one indicator showed normal readings, meaning the area was considered safe to enter. According to procedure, a manual verification was also required, but it was often treated as a formality and skipped. The worker entered the confined space. Relying solely on the system's readings, unknown to him, the sensor had been malfunctioning for several days and failed to register sudden changes. While he was inside, conditions deteriorated rapidly. Toxic gas levels reached a critical point, but no alarm was triggered. When communication was lost, coworkers immediately began a search. He was found too late. The cause of death was poisoning. The investigation revealed that a manual check would have taken less than a minute and would have exposed the faulty sensor. The mistake was not the technology itself, but trusting it without verification. One number on a screen became the difference between safety and a fatal trap. Rushed maintenance accident. Production plant. The work took place in a production facility where task speed directly affected shift targets. An operator was servicing machinery that required regular cleaning. According to instructions, the procedure involved several steps and a mandatory pause between them. That day, tasks were piling up, and the operator decided to shorten the process. He skipped one step that didn't seem critical and moved directly to the next stage. It saved only a few minutes. The machine appeared to be stopped, and he assumed the risk was minimal. He leaned into the mechanism to finish faster. At that moment, the system automatically switched back into operating mode. Safety protections designed for the full procedure were not active. The incident happened instantly. Coworkers heard the sudden noise and realized what had happened too late. The investigation concluded that following the complete procedure would have added no more than 5 minutes. The mistake wasn't the task itself, but the decision to rush. Saving time became the cost of a life. Ignored safety instruction. Equipment operation site. The incident occurred at a facility where equipment was operated under strict written procedures. Before starting work, employees were reminded to follow the instructions, especially one specific step related to system startup. That step was often considered a formality because it had always been done this way and nothing ever happened. The worker skipped the required step. Believing it had no real impact on safety, the equipment was familiar, and the process felt routine. However, that instruction ensured the correct activation sequence of safety mechanisms. When the system started, those protections did not fully engage. Seconds later, a malfunction occurred. A moving component activated outside normal parameters. The worker was standing too close and had no time to react. Coworkers stopped the machine, but the injuries were fatal. The investigation revealed that the instruction had been written based on past incidents and was not unnecessary. The mistake was not ignorance, but the belief that rules could be simplified. One skipped step turned a routine task into a deadly trap. Skipped pre-shift inspection, manufacturing facility. The shift started as usual, the equipment was used daily, and before each shift, regulations required a brief inspection, a visual check, and a test run without load. The procedure took only a few minutes and was considered mandatory. That day, the worker decided to skip it, believing the machine had worked fine the day before. He started the system directly in full operation mode. Everything appeared normal at first, no unusual sounds or warnings. However, an internal defect remained unnoticed, a loosened component that should have been detected during inspection. Under load, it failed. The malfunction happened suddenly. A critical part broke, creating a dangerous situation in the work area. The worker was standing too close and had no time to react. Coworkers stopped the operation, but it was too late. The investigation confirmed that the defect was visible during a standard inspection. The mistake was not lack of skill, but confidence that if it worked yesterday, it will work today. One skip check made the difference. Ignored warning signal, industrial control area. Before the work began, the system displayed a warning message. Nothing critical, a yellow indicator, no emergency shutdown. Such alerts appeared from time to time and usually indicated minor deviations that didn't prevent operation. The operator noticed the warning, but assumed that since the system allowed startup, the risk was minimal. The operation began as usual. Within minutes, parameters started changing rapidly. The initial warning, which seemed insignificant, turned out to be an early sign of a serious malfunction. Safety mechanisms did not have enough time to respond. When the situation escalated, the operator was standing within the equipment's hazard zone. A sudden failure occurred. Coworkers stopped the process and called for help, but the injuries were fatal. The investigation confirmed that the warning was valid and required an immediate shutdown and inspection. The mistake was not a technical failure, but a human decision, ignoring a signal because it had happened before. One warning not taken seriously became the final one. Automatic timer activation, automated work zone. The work was being carried out in an area where equipment operated on an automatic timer. Before each cycle, workers had a limited window to exit the hazardous zone. The procedure was well known and considered safe when timing rules were strictly followed. A worker was nearby, finishing final steps. When the warning signal sounded, he realized it was time to step away, but decided to complete the task. Only a few seconds remained, and the job seemed almost finished. He believed he could take one last step and clear the area before activation. The timer triggered exactly as programmed. The system did not account for human presence, it followed its algorithm. The worker failed to exit the danger zone in time. The sequence unfolded faster than he anticipated. The investigation concluded that there was never enough time to safely finish the task once the warning sounded. The mistake was not technical or procedural. It was a human decision, gambling on seconds and trusting instinct. The belief I'll make it proved fatal. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. Have you ever experienced something similar? I'm looking forward to reading your comments.